Over 2 nights in August 1969, 7 people were murdered in Los Angeles. The victims included actress Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant at the time of her death. The man convicted of orchestrating these killings, Charles Manson, was not present at either of the crime scenes. He remained miles away while the violence took place. Prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi was tasked with proving that a man who never held a weapon was legally responsible for the deaths. He argued that Manson exerted a dictatorial control so complete that his followers functioned as extensions of his own will. Yet the law did not view the followers as passive tools. The individuals who carried out the physical acts were held fully accountable, receiving the same convictions and sentences as the leader who ordered them. Understanding how these individuals were moved to kill requires looking past the idea of a mysterious mastermind and examining the clinical, step-by-step process of psychological dismantling. The process relied on recruitment. In the late 1960s, the counterculture movement was filled with transient, vulnerable youth searching for community. Manson targeted these individuals, offering a sense of belonging and a shared purpose. This method of high-pressure influence is categorized by the BITE model. The framework identifies 4 specific pillars of authoritarian control: behavior, information, thought, and emotion. Information control is used to dismantle a person's grasp on reality. Leaders withhold critical data and discourage members from checking non-group sources, like news or family, until the group's doctrine is the only available truth. Physical isolation facilitates this. The group moved to Spawn's Movie Ranch, a remote film set in the desert. In this environment, the leader could regulate every aspect of the members' physical reality, from their diet to their sleep. Thought and emotional control followed through phobia indoctrination. Members were taught that the outside world was an imminent threat, creating an irrational fear that made the idea of questioning the leader or leaving the ranch feel life-threatening. Systemic isolation and emotional manipulation were designed to replace an individual's original morality with a state of dependency. The group became the members' entire world. Research into cult identity explains how this dependency transforms the self. As members begin to self-categorize, they adopt a group mentality. Their individual identity dissociates, and the group's motives become their own. However, these followers were not mindless. The women in the group held organizational roles, managing the hierarchy of the commune and participating in the recruitment and vetting of new arrivals. The male members operated as mechanics and enforcers. They maintained the vehicles and secured the ranch, performing functional tasks that supported the group's day-to-day survival and its eventual move toward violence. This is what sociologist Janja Lalich calls bounded choice. Within a high-control system, the perceived options available to a member are narrowed by propaganda. The decision space shrinks until the leader's desired action appears to be the only path forward. This narrowing is driven by a charismatic leadership style. The leader uses personality and propaganda to persuade followers into obedience, often motivated by a need for power or money. This system was engineered to funnel participants towards specific outcomes. They remained active within the group's structure, even as their choices were being funneled toward the violence of August 1969. On the nights of the Tate LaBianca murders, the influence of the leader was clear. Manson provided the motive and the authority to act, even while he remained physically distant from the crimes. But the law makes a distinction between being influenced and losing the capacity for free will. High-control environments drastically alter how these choices are made, but they do not completely remove the capacity to make them. At the crime scenes, the followers themselves pulled the triggers and held the weapons. Despite the psychological pressure they were under, they possessed the capacity to choose their actions in those moments. If the justice system were to excuse physical perpetrators because of the group they belonged to, it would effectively dissolve the concept of individual moral responsibility. Describing cult leaders as having magical powers of control makes for a compelling story, but it hides the real psychological tactics they use, tactics that are documented, clinical, and predictable. Recognizing both the manipulation of the system and the responsible choices of the followers is necessary to understand the danger of high-control groups. It is the only way to accurately account for the tragedy of the victims.